Well, good afternoon to you. It is 5:06 here, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up on the program, the Attorney General of the state of Tennessee, Jonathan Skrmetti, joins us this hour. He's got a new lawsuit against the American left. He'll talk to us about that, and you can join us at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. A programming note for you tomorrow. Tucker Carlson will be joining the program. We'll have an extensive conversation with him. Don't miss it right here on WMAL. Let me take a phone call here as a way to set things up. I've got Dan in Bowie, Maryland, calling in on line 3. Dan, good afternoon. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show. Hello, sir.
Howdy, Vince. This press, as usual, is going crazy over this blood poisoning thing that Trump mentioned.
Yeah, so go ahead and tell me as you understand it what's going on here, because this is a story. This is one of those stories where, like, I've saw some headlines on things, and I just wasn't following it all that closely because it's like the left is whipping itself into a frenzy again.
He put this there. This is a racial. They're poisoning our blood, and they're making a big deal. I've seen maybe at least 10 different stories about it. It's been on TV. But here's the thing: when I heard this, I said, "Yeah, this makes a lot of sense," because I think he's referring to, even if he doesn't even. I don't know where it came from, but if you look at any kind of historical thing having to do with a metaphor of the body politic, just put in body politic. I looked at Wikipedia, and for example, in Wikipedia, here's one part of it that goes into the history. It goes back really into the Romans in about the 6th century, and it says the image of the body politics occupied a central place in the political thought of the Roman Republic, and the Romans were the first to develop an anatomy of the body in full detail. So, and they talk about it. So when you say something about the body politics, you're talking about poisoning the blood, or doing something to the stomach, or taking away the brain. In other words, it's talking about the culture and the body of a group, a civilization.
Yeah.
And so it's when I heard it, I thought that's just a metaphor for coming in and disrupting or doing damage to the body politic of America.
All right, so I'm going to share the full thing with the audience. I'm going to share the full thing here with the audience, Dan, so people can get a sense of what you're talking about. But to conclude this, you don't think that Trump is Hitler, in other words?
Using Hitler is such a stupid thing all the way through, and Hitler's such a complex situation. And, it's just such a stupid. It is stupid. Especially what it does impresses the ignoramuses out there who want to believe something. But it's completely.
Yeah, especially coming from the left. I mean, especially coming from the authoritarians who are currently controlling the whole system and punishing their political opponents.
I'm a retired guy here, and I look at this, and I have never seen anything so. The propaganda at every technique. This is a propaganda technique.
Yeah.
You take something, you don't use it in the way that in an intellectual way or in some way of communicating with a metaphor. You use it to come up with some poisonous, and actually it is poisonous kind of statement that says, okay, he's a racist because he used blood, and it's kind of disgusting, and it's really. What's happening is a large part of our population, this propaganda is really getting through.
It's pervasive.
I mean, I go to I hear this around where I live all the time. People do not understand things. They hear it on CNN, and once they hear it the first time or 50 times, like they do it, then that becomes it. So this is another thing. But I'm surprised somebody hasn't brought this up. I was waiting. I've been waiting for a week or so to see, is somebody going to actually describe this in this reasonable way. I haven't seen anything on it, so I'm wondering what's going on. Where are the reporters? Where are the people?
I know.
I'm sorry, Charlie Hurd or somebody hasn't come up with this, or Chris hasn't said something, or Chris hasn't had his pro. I'm looking at this, and you can look at the Wikipedia. You can go through. I mean, this is a whole history of.
Well, Dan, let me help people understand that. I appreciate the call. It's an excellent way to get us started on this because I want people to hear what the left is getting worked up into a tizzy over. But you mentioned Chris Plant, and. He's you can't help but cite Chris Plant because he's got a lot of great original stuff. And one thing that Chris does talk about with some frequency, one thing he does talk about with some frequency is that what ends up happening is that the left will take something you said, turning into something you didn't say, and then attack you for the thing that you didn't say. That's the pattern.
Well, well, they take the words out, so cherry picks words, tied into something that has to do with Hitler or Satan.
I know.
You name whatever kind of propaganda. This is all a way of this is propaganda. You can look at the way that propaganda is spread, and this is what it is. You take something of that and you repeat it enough times, and you deal with stupid people who watch CNN and MSNBC only, or whatever. All
right, well, let me play this. I got to play because we have a limited time. But Dan, thank you very much. I want people to hear this. So the headline here from NBC today is Trump says immigrants are poisoning the blood of our country. Biden campaign likens comments to Hitler. That's the headline on this. Now, let me just make an obvious point. At this point in the existence of Donald Trump as a politician and the way the media handles him, if you are still credulously believing on first blush something scandalous they declare about Donald Trump, you are beyond saving. I mean, you've got to be a complete moron. This is the boy who cried wolf over and over and over and over again. How many hoaxes have we been served up by the press as it relates to something that Donald Trump said? And you should know ahead of time, if he does win re-election, we're going to get a lot more of these. They'll be doing this throughout his second term as president of the United States. But here they are saying that he said immigrants are poisoning the blood of our country. Now, before I even play the audio, let me just make sure you understand. He's talking about what the left is doing to our country right now. And he's specifically talking about how they've allowed 15 to 16 million, by his estimates, illegal immigrants into the country. So already this is beginning with a lie, that immigrants are poisoning the blood of our country. And they are accusing him of saying something he did not say, and then, as Chris so often points out, attacking him for the thing he didn't say. And now is saying that he is Hitler. You following all this? Good. All right, so now here's the audio. This is some of the audio we've pulled for you from his speech over the weekend in New Hampshire that they're basing all of this on. Take a listen to this. Let's see if this cut's useful.
We got a lot of work to do. You know, when they I think the real number is 15, 16 million people into our country. When they do that, we got a lot of work to do. They're poisoning the blood of our country. That's what they've done. They poison mental institutions and prisons all over the world, not just in South America, not just the 3 or 4 countries that we think about, but all over the world. They're coming into our country from Africa, from Asia, all over the world. They're pouring into our country. Nobody's even looking at them. They just come in. The crime is going to be tremendous.
Okay, so here he is criticizing. That cut was 34 seconds. It was pulled by somebody on Twitter who put it up. But that's some of the context for his actual remarks. And immediately you find out, okay, fact check on NBC. He's not talking about immigrants. He's talking about what the left is doing by way of all of this illegal immigration. Additionally, when I heard this quote's existence, the first thing I thought of was, well, there's a lot of poison that's definitely flowing across the border. This is literal poison. The fentanyl that's killing over 100,000 Americans a year would qualify as poison, wouldn't it? Now, this has become today's thing to kick around to distract you from what the Biden administration is doing as it destroys America. So here's the media. Here's a reporter today from the Associated Press confronting Senator J.D. Vance of Ohio and saying, do you stand by what Trump said about poisoning and Hitler and here's J.D. Vance answering the question. Take a listen to this. This is a 2-minute sequence here.
And so what do you have to say to the former president's comments over the weekend about immigrants and saying that they're poisoning the blood of Americans?
Well, look, I've been asked this question a number of times, and here's my view on these comments. First of all, he didn't say immigrants were poisoning the blood of this country. He said illegal immigrants were poisoning the blood of the country, which is objectively and obviously true to anybody who looks at the statistics about fentanyl overdoses. And I think just one observation about the press as an organization, you guys seem far more upset about the guy who criticized the problem than you did about Joe Biden, who's causing this problem.
Can you just go back to his comments, though,
Sure.
And sort of using language that we heard, during World War II? I'm sure you're a student of history. You're well aware what that kind of language represents in historical context.
What organization do you represent?
I work at the Associated Press.
The idea that I am well aware, you just framed your question implicitly assuming that Donald Trump is talking about Adolf Hitler. It's absurd. It is absurd. Why do you think that Donald Trump's language is targeted at the blood of the immigrants and not at the blood of the American citizens who are being poisoned by the fentanyl problem?
You think he was referring to
I think this is
fentanyl?
ridiculous. If you watch the speech in context and you look at what's going on, it is obvious that he was talking about the very clear fact that the blood of Americans is being poisoned by a drug epidemic. To take that comment and then to immediately assume.
By the way, just to give you some more context to this, Don Jr. has tweeted this J.D. Vance video and was pointing out how ridiculous the press is, saying that this is all complete fake news. So, within the Trump family, all these presidential sons, within the Trump family, an enthusiastic endorsement for what J.D. Vance is saying here, smacking this AP reporter around.
That he's talking about immigrants as Adolf Hitler talked about Jews is preposterous. You guys need to wake up and actually do some journalism.
Should he use different language then? Because that is language that Hitler used.
Here's the problem with that question and that framing. You are allegedly a journalist. You're supposed to speak truth to power. And yet, you're trying to circumscribe and narrow the limits of debate on immigration in this country. What you're doing is not speaking truth to power. You're trying to police the guy who's criticizing the problem so that Americans don't pay attention to the guy who caused the problem. It's an absurd question. It's an absurd framing.
No question. I mean, the idea here is the press become piranhas when it comes to trying to nitpick phrasing from Donald Trump, but they'd rather not in any way demonstrate any meaningful aggression or interrogation of the guy who's currently in charge and currently destroying our country. None. No meaningful aggressiveness. No cornering Democrats in the hallways, asking them why they have allowed the border to collapse entirely. Nothing. It's a joke. It's a total joke. And it gets to, hey, in other words, this is not a good faith conversation. You're not even, you're not anywhere near the realm of being able to have this conversation because you don't even bother challenging the left on these things. Now, of course, Mitch McConnell, who hates Donald Trump, he fielded a question on this today. And he's doing the NBC stunt that Trump said that immigrants are poisoning the blood of the country. Trump said no such thing. You just heard the audio. Here's McConnell today.
Are you comfortable with your party's leading presidential candidate referring to illegal immigrants as people who are poisoning the blood of our country?
Let me make sure. What did he say? That was Manu Raju. Did he say illegal immigrants there? All right, let's listen again.
As people who are poisoning the candidate, referring to illegal immigrants as people who are...
It sounds like he said legal. It is. Simon Atiba has quoted this as illegal on Twitter, so I'm going to give Manu Raju the benefit of the doubt here. Maybe he doesn't deserve it, but I'm a nice guy.
Candidate, referring to illegal immigrants as people who are poisoning the blood of our country.
Well, it strikes me that didn't bother him when he appointed Elaine Chao Secretary of Transportation.
I'm sorry, are we learning something new here? Was Elaine Chao an illegal immigrant to the United States of America? Is that what he's saying? What is McConnell even talking about? This is the kind of stupidity that comes out of the mouth of the American left. Well, he's against immigrants. What are you talking about? His wife is an immigrant. What? He's against immigrants? Do you hear yourself? Well, he's against Jews. He's against Jews? His son-in-law and his daughter are Jewish. He was like the first guy to allow Jews into his club in Florida. What are you talking? Well, he's against. It's just like they just keep going. It doesn't even actually matter what the facts are. It doesn't. So McConnell there just did this. John Thune apparently did the same thing today. John Thune was asked about this. He's like, my grandfather was an immigrant. I'm sorry, was your grandfather an illegal immigrant? What are you even talking about? What kind of response is this? Why are you being a coward? Why can't you stand up to this? You're a Republican, for God's sake. You're supposed to be the bulwark against the tyranny here going on in Washington. Instead, you're a little lickspittle, a handmaiden for it. John Thune, Mitch McConnell. Oh, my family member was an immigrant. Oh, he's attacking immigrants. You hear these people? And honestly, it's just, how long has this story existed? This wasn't, honest. It wasn't even really on my radar. I didn't realize the left was getting all exercised about this because I don't watch ABC World News Tonight, CBS Evening News, all these crazy places. I don't watch them normally. I've got better things to do than set up the rabbit ears and find out what the left is screeching about on the evening news. But apparently they've been going hog wild about this for a couple days now. And it took me 8 seconds of inquiry to determine that they're lying about this one too. The half-life on these stories is non-existent. Every time they accuse him of something, it takes, let's actually find out what he said, right? Jason in Kensington, line 2. Jason, am I right? I mean, all they do is make it up.
It's all made up, and, it's funny because they know who they're preaching to. They're preaching to the same choir, and they know that the people that are listening to them want to hear these sound bites, and that's all these quick sound bites. They get in, do the damage, and they get out. And then when it comes to the question time about analysing what they asked, all of a sudden they want the back door, and it's just these quick hits they go out for and sound bites, and it's just such a big trick of theirs. I mean, they know that they're absolutely full of crap, and the thing is, they're after that quick camera shot, quick phrase. It's sort of like Charlottesville. Like if you actually look at the whole speech at Charlottesville, it's the same thing.
So Jason, obviously, and I thought of that one too. It's like, the very fine people lie. Now, Jason, you're an immigrant, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
so Jason's an immigrant to our country, loves our country, big fan, and we love having him. He's a great immigrant. But here's the thing. The left, whenever they deal with this, like Trump will be like, you know what, all this crime that illegal immigration is causing is a massive problem. They'll be like, well, immigrants don't commit crimes at the same rate as American citizens. This is the kind of crap that they say. And I'm sitting there going, he didn't say immigrants. He said illegal immigrants. And by the way, that, in other words, we have problems already of our own among American citizens, so we should import more? What are you even saying exactly?
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, too, it all just sort of makes it harder for the people and immigration reform for the people who legally want to get here. It's just making it even worse and even more of a pipe dream for these people to get papers legally. It's so difficult now. The stuff you have to go through to do it legally, where they say, well, you know what, I should have just swam across the Pacific, would have been easier. Yeah. And done it the illegal way because free cell phone, free hotel room, what mortgage asked for.
I know. It's so crazy. Jason, thank you as always for all of your great calls. Really appreciate that, sir. If you're looking for the people who are wrecking the country, look no further than the American left. Authoritarians through and through control of these institutions, taking your grandmother's retirement money and then using it to advance the most destructive causes ever. One attorney general from the state of Tennessee wants to address this. Jonathan Skrmetti joins us just moments from now to explain how he's got a big lawsuit against a big lefty asset manager. Good afternoon to you. 5:35 here, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. You can join us on the program at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Reminder that tomorrow on the show, we'll have Tucker Carlson stopping by for an extended interview. Do not miss it. You can always hear us 3 to 6 each weekday here on WMAL, or if you missed that, get the podcast. We've got a great Vince Coglianese Show podcast available for you everywhere you get those. Let's see here. We've got, there's a big asset manager, the biggest. BlackRock controls an immense amount of money, the retirement accounts of so many Americans. And how do they use it? What you're supposed to do is make money for the people who invest through your company. But instead of just doing that, BlackRock has also been using a lot of that cash to advance left-wing causes under something that they refer to as ESG, environmental, social, and governance considerations. But the state of Tennessee, as of today, is now fighting back against this. Joining us now to explain how is Attorney General Jonathan Skrmetti of the state of Tennessee. Mr. Attorney General, great to have you with us, sir.
Hey, great to be back.
All right, so you are suing BlackRock. Tell us why.
So this is a consumer protection lawsuit, and it's a really simple case. BlackRock has made representations over the last few years that they are focused on nothing but making money for the people whose money is invested in their products. At the same time, they have made representations that they're going to go out of their way to pursue environmental goals, net zero, reduced greenhouse gas emissions. Both of those things cannot be true. One of them has to be wrong. We have a consumer protection law that says if you make misrepresentations to consumers, that's a violation. So we're going after them on the very simple consumer protection theory here.
That they're not actually doing their fiduciary responsibility to, figuring out a way to make more money for these people and instead using that money to advance left-wing causes?
Well, that's the concern that's driven a lot of this, but this case is even simpler than that. Sometimes they say that they are focused on just making money and doing their fiduciary duty, and sometimes they say they're focused on the environmental stuff.
Yeah.
They have to pick one, and that's what this case is about. They have to be clear about what they've been doing.
Do you get the impression that BlackRock is trying to conceal the extent to which they're continuing the left's agenda? Because earlier this year, the head of BlackRock, a guy called Larry Fink, announced that he would stop using the term ESG, but not using a term is different than not directing money towards these causes.
Yeah, there was a trend, right? All of a sudden, these big financial institutions were going to save the world. They were going to work together and figure out all the solutions and make everybody go along. And I think they did not anticipate the pushback. And my impression is, there's a lot of concern that maybe they got too far out over their skis on this stuff, or maybe they talked too much about it. Either way, it's a problem, though. This is America. The voters decide what the policies are. And if you make a lot of money, great, you're allowed to do that. But that doesn't mean you get to decide how the world should work.
Mm-hmm. So if your lawsuit prevails, how does that benefit the citizens of Tennessee?
Well, the number one thing it does is give clarity. Investors, consumers deserve to know what they're getting when they spend money to buy a product, whether it's an investment product or anything else. And so that's the biggest concern immediately, is making sure people know what they're getting. Hopefully we will get transparency going forward, and we'll see what direction that goes.
Yes.
Depending on what they say, it could drive different responses.
One thing that I wish I saw more of is just kind of more openness by these asset managers about how they're using all of these retirement accounts. Like they should have immense disclosure requirements before they're allowed to use my money to compel political outcomes from American corporations.
Absolutely. People invest because they want to make more money. They want to make sure that they're able to take care of themselves in retirement, and to leverage that into political ends that a lot of those people don't agree with, that's just wrong.
Unquestionably wrong. Now, do you think that the states that have attorneys general like you, who have been fighting back against this, have had meaningful success here? Obviously, that includes, some states have decided not to invest their state pensions with big firms like BlackRock anymore.
I think the biggest victories we've had so far are companies that have second-guessed this stuff and said, hey, we're not going to participate in these anymore. We're concerned that it might be an antitrust violation.
Right.
It might be a fiduciary duty violation. We've seen a number of companies pull back and make it explicitly clear that they're going to do their fiduciary duty. I think those are the biggest wins so far, and those came from shining a light on it, sending letters. Now that the litigation has started, I think you're going to see more litigation, and hopefully we'll be able to just draw a decisive line and say, companies are there to make money, and if you want to save the world, we have a democratic system, and there are ways you can try to do that, but you have to be upfront about it, and you have to be accountable to the people.
When you say you think you'll see more litigation, do you suspect that we will see more states join you in going after these asset managers in a consumer protection suit?
Well, different states have different consumer protection laws. Tennessee's is a little more robust than most, so I don't know that they'll be able to copy this theory exactly.
Got it.
But I think you see all the different states looking to figure out how their state laws could be brought to bear.
All right, well, we're wishing you all the luck in the world. I mean, anything that can right the ship and get us back to a more sane place is worthwhile. Mr. Attorney General Jonathan Skrmetti from the state of Tennessee, thank you very much for your time today, sir, and the update on that important story.
Thank you. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you as well. Again, Attorney General Jonathan Skrmetti, nice to have him with us today. And it is, one of the positive stories during this era has been we've had all these Republican attorneys general who have been able to use their power as the top prosecutors in their states to push back against so much of this. So there is some hope there. It reminds me of what's going on in Texas right now. We've had mixed reviews of Texas Governor Greg Abbott, for instance, down there on when it comes to securing our border. He's stuck with a horrific problem, which is that the federal government refuses to actually attend to our border. In fact, they're accelerating people across it. And so he's paid a lot of lip service over the years and at times deployed law enforcement to try and secure the border, and increasingly so as it's become more and more obviously a horrific situation. And this week, we get the Texas state legislature and the governor moving on passing a law that gives law enforcement officials in the state new powers to arrest illegals who are coming in from Mexico. So let me go now to the updated Washington Post headline on this subject. ACLU sues Abbott, that would be Greg Abbott, over law giving state police immigration arrest powers. A group of Texas civil and immigrant rights organizations, El Paso County and the American Civil Liberties Union, filed a lawsuit today, challenging the constitutionality of a new law empowering state law enforcement to arrest and deport immigrants suspected of entering illegally from Mexico. Texas Governor Greg Abbott welcomed the expected legal challenges in a defiant speech Monday as he signed SB 4. The law set up a potential showdown between Texas and the federal government over who has ultimate authority to protect borders and enforce immigration law. Quote, immigration is a quintessentially federal authority, the complaint reads. Isn't this amazing? They're arguing, the feds should protect our borders. What they're really arguing for is that we shouldn't have borders. That's what the lawsuit's about. And they're mad that Texas is even attempting to ensure we do have them. The law violates the supremacy clause of the U.S. Constitution, the lawsuit claims. A state cannot replace Congress's immigration scheme with its own. One of the pieces here is that we're looking at an invasion of Texas, and the Constitution addresses this with some specificity. What is Texas to do when the federal government fails them? Well, they should thwart the invasion. That's their right as a state to do that. And if you are under the illusion this is anything but an invasion, just check out the images today from Eagle Pass. Look at the people who are pouring across our border. Unbelievable numbers. What was it yesterday? 12,400 people in a single day? And those are the people who turn themselves in. What is the number that qualifies as an invasion? Remember, Jay Johnson talked about this. Was it 1,000 people a day was an emergency? The former DHS secretary under Obama? We're way past that point. We're way past that point now. So they say this is a federal authority. Abbott said in a statement that these laws will help stop the tidal wave of illegal entry into Texas. The law, which goes into effect in March, gives Texas courts the power as well to order immigrants suspected of entering the state illegally to return to the country through which they entered. All right. So that's what Texas is actually doing. Meanwhile, the mayor of Chicago is a guy called Brandon Johnson. Now, Greg Abbott, in an effort to mitigate the destruction that Biden has wrought on his state, has been offering taxpayer-funded bus trips to all the illegals who pour across the border. And this is one of those areas that I think he's a mixed bag on, because I don't like that taxpayers at any level, state or federal, are paying to be a part of a human trafficking operation. But Greg Abbott's rationale is, well, look, if they're going to burden me, I'm not doing that. That's what the people of Texas aren't doing that, so we'll send them somewhere else. But we're not going to forcibly send them anywhere. We'll offer them transportation. Hey, you want to go to Chicago? You want to go to New York City? That's where that bus is headed. And so people voluntarily climb on these buses and they head to the cities of their choices at taxpayer expense. That's what's actually going on. One of the positive effects of this is it has called attention to this crisis because it's had Democrat mayors get up in arms about the immigration crisis affecting them. And one of those mayors is Brandon Johnson. This past day, Brandon Johnson was voicing his anger at Greg Abbott, who, by the way, he should be celebrating for signing a law that includes deporting people who enter into Texas illegally. Brandon Johnson should be right there at the signing ceremony next to Greg Abbott. Thank you, Governor Abbott, for protecting our country's border. But instead, this is what we get from Brandon Johnson. Anger that Greg Abbott is providing voluntary transport to illegal immigrants to a sanctuary city known as Chicago, Illinois.
The issue is not just how we respond in the city of Chicago, it's the fact that we have a governor a governor, an elected official in the state of Texas that is placing families on buses without shoes, cold, wet.
Families who voluntarily get aboard these buses with an understanding that they're headed to Chicago, Illinois.
Tired, hungry, afraid, traumatized, and then they come to the city of Chicago where we have homelessness.
We should probably fact check that word families too. How many families are we talking about? There's quite a bit of first of all, there's quite a bit of fraud going on with the asylum system because what is understood outside of our borders is that if you bring a child with you, it's a get into America free ticket. So a lot of that is going on between unrelated people and children in peril as a result of our insane policies.
We have mental health clinics that have been shut down and closed. You have people who are seeking employment. The governor of Texas needs to take a look in the mirror of the chaos that he is causing for this country.
Oh my goodness.
This is not just a Chicago dynamic. He is attacking our country.
This would make a lot more sense if the pronoun that he just used, he, was applied to the President of the United States. This is not just Chicago that is affected. He is attacking our country, i.e. Joe Biden. Joe Biden is attacking our country, and it's not just affecting Chicago. It's all over the place. New York City, Washington, D.C., illegals showing up at Kamala Harris's house on a routine basis. Yeah. Yeah, it's a problem that's afflicting the whole country, and it's caused by Joe Biden, not Greg Abbott. Greg Abbott, who's now trying to deport illegals from his state. Coringe was asked about this today. Tell me what you think about Texas actually securing our borders. That's awful, right?
A question on the new immigration law in Texas. Does White House have any thoughts on that law? And there appears to be some litigation that's starting over the law as well.
Look, this is an extreme law.
Enforcing the border? Oh, that's downright extreme. Stopping people from entering the United States illegally. What a bunch of extremists they are. This is how, so sovereignty is extreme now. Sovereignty is extreme. Border security is extreme. Not allowing foreign nationals to just willy-nilly, illegally pour into your country, that's extreme.
So, look, this is an extreme law that will not and does not make the communities in Texas safer. It just doesn't.
No, letting illegals in is what makes them safer. That's right. Unknown foreign nationals pouring into your community makes you safer. It's our strength, indeed.
And I think to add to that is that it is very much in line with what Republicans, many Republicans like to do.
Which is pursue securing the border?
Or tend to do, which is demonize
you can do it, girl.
Immigrants and also dehumanize immigrants. This is part of this. And so this is not who we are as a country. This is not who we should be as a country.
It's not who we are. Does the left sell these phrases on bumper stickers? Is there like a little gift shop where you can buy, this is not who we are. We're better than this. Get on the right side of history.
Communities should not be individually targeted and put into harm's way. And this is
you know who's targeting them? It's the illegals who get on the bus that's destined for Chicago, Illinois. And you know who's targeting them? It's Joe Biden, who is using your money to put those illegals in the United States of America. That these communities are being targeted, she says, in another case of projection.
Communities should not be individually targeted and put into harm's way.
Especially Martha's Vineyard. Do not target Martha's Vineyard.
This is what we're seeing. Again, you know, this is something that Governor Abbott has done over and over again. There are plenty of examples that I've listed out from here before.
It's amazing, though, listening to her. Listen to her attack a handicapped man. You hear that? She's attacking Greg Abbott. How dare she? What is she, a handyphobe? This is unacceptable in today's day and age. Who does she think she is? Honestly, it's 5:52 now. All right, don't miss tomorrow's program. Tucker Carlson will be joining us for an extended interview. You see the stories lately that Melania Trump would prefer him as vice president of the United States. He's been asked about this, and his answer has been, God would have to speak very loudly for me to do something like that. So we'll ask him How loudly has God been speaking to you lately? We'll find out. And a lot more interesting conversation ahead with him tomorrow on this program. Thank you, as always, for joining us. The great one, Mark Levin, up next here on WMAL.